So I kind of took that over and started messing around with the keys and taught myself. Really wish I didn't, because I play super incorrectly, and like it gives me this like weird like carpal tunnel thing. So that's like, it's
How
like
are you
super
playing?
I don't know. Like I'm more conscious of it now, because I know like if I play for a prolonged period of time,
you're like, ouch.
like really hurts. But for like years, man, like because I was just trying to figure out where the notes were. I was just trying to figure out what was going on.
Thank you, everyone, for joining us for another episode of On The Porch with Front Porch Music. I'm Logan.
And I'm Jenna.
And we had a great conversation today with Ontario-based artist Dustin Bird. We had a really great chat, didn't we, Jenna?
We did. We talked about wearing the producer hat versus musician hat. We talked pretty in depth about like producing music and putting it together. If you talk to Dustin, you've probably chatted about this once or twice too. We talked about growth from his first album to what he's putting out now and how he's really grown as a musician and an artist.
We also talked about his new single, Cowboy Stay. And we also played a little game of Cowboy Stay or Cowboy Go. Here's our chat with Dustin Bird. How are things going?
Pretty great working on a lot of new music.
For those out there listening who don't know, why don't you tell us a bit about you? Where are you from?
I'm from Sterling, Ontario. And that's all you need to know.
Great.
Yeah.
Okay.
Podcast over. See you guys.
Have a good day.
Have you always been like musically inclined? That's a dumb question. I feel like that's a yes.
Well, honestly, not as much, right? Like, I mean, I think the assumption is that, oh, like you're an artist, you must have just kind of always been into music or something like that. And that's true to an extent, but I wasn't always very good at it. Like, I was really bad at singing for like a long time. I had to learn how to do that, It was a skill that I developed. Same thing with production, right? Like, I was terrible at producing music for the longest time. I just, was playing with sounds and stuff until I figured it out. But I always loved music and songwriting, and particularly like country songwriting, and how to, like, I think country music has some of the best lyrics, if not the best lyrics of any genre, right? In the way that they can tell a story and create this imagery and all that sort of stuff. So I was always like really drawn to that, and I wanted to do it in some capacity. I wanted to play guitar. I wanted to play like guitar like Brad Paisley and like Keith Urban, and so I tried to do that. And then I wanted to write songs, and at that point, I'd started to dig into some other genres, so all this other influence had kind of poured into these like country songs that I was writing, like Ed Sheeran and John Mayer, and artists like that. And then I was like, well, I want to record them, right? Like, I want to lay them down somehow. So I started messing with GarageBand. I was like, like 14, 15, messing with GarageBand, trying to like lay these songs down. And when I was doing that, I realized like, I don't know who I am as a vocalist. I don't know what my voice is. I don't even know if like I'm right for country.
Do you know who you are at 15?
Yeah. Yeah, it's like I don't even know if I want to like be a country artist necessarily, because like I'm kind of like the sound of pop stuff. I like the sound of like R&B stuff and all that. And so, and at the same time, like I was trying to learn jazz. I was trying to learn jazz guitar and things, and so that was really interesting to me, and that gave me a great like theoretical foundation for stuff. So there's just all these like different influences happening, but at the core of it, like I was still kind of writing country songs, and I had done that right up through college. I went to Algonquin in Ottawa for audio engineering. I was still like writing these songs, but learning who I was as a vocalist and just the type of artist that I want to be versus like the type of stuff that I can produce and work on with other people and things. That was like the biggest challenge. And so the past few years, settling into country music, 2019 was when that first single dropped. And then like since then, it's just been this, and it's been awesome because I've been able to pour all this other influence into it in a way that like it feels like they're elevating one another. The country elements feel like they're coming in and elevating these like pop and R&B elements, and vice versa. And it's all about, for me now, like creating this feeling that we haven't felt before in music, and like doing something musically exciting and inspiring.
But you can really hear the different influences in your music. Like, you are kind of a genre-bending artist in terms of, like, the sound, I find. And I think it's really, it's really versatile, and I think it's really great. Like, one of my favorite things that you've done is that Harry Styles cover of Falling.
Oh, yeah.
I love it. I listen to it all the time.
Oh, yeah.
But I just like that. Like, it's like a great song in general, and then you also kind of bring a different flair to it, and I think it's really great.
Yeah, I did really, really love that song. You know, that song was interesting, too, from a vocal perspective, because it's really high. It's got, like, a big range. And that... it's a little nerdy, but that A flat in that song, I was like not super confident that I was going to be able to like nail that at the time. This is like, I think, yeah, it was like September of 2020 or August of 2020, around then. And I was like, I don't think my voice is going to let me do that. I mean, it might let me do that like for the recording a couple times, but I don't think it's going to let me do that, you know.
But out on the road?
Yeah, but in doing that, just in being like, oh, well, I love this song, and obviously I didn't need to do it in that key or whatever, but again, that range was so large, like it was also kind of at the bottom of where I wanted to be. So I was like, okay, like, I'm just going to do it. And it kind of opened up this, like, a little bit more range for me. It kind of extended that a little bit, and it opened my eyes to like, oh, like my voice can actually do that. And, I've worked with a vocal coach now for the past couple years, Mika Barnes. And that's been like really exciting too throughout all of this. It's been, just like growing as a vocalist, changing as a vocalist, becoming better, like exploring myself. One of the advantages that I've always had as like a engineer and producer is that I can make myself sound really good even if I don't. You know what I mean? And so, like, really being able to find myself vocally while putting out music has been kind of a unique thing, a little bit like of an interesting little thing, I guess, compared to other artists. But now, with this new project and everything, I feel like as a writer, as a producer, as a singer, as a performer, like all the show experience over the past few years, we've been lucky, like over the pandemic, to get a bunch of like little one-offs and things like that. So all these different experiences, and working with my team, at Open Road, as well as a couple of my mentors, Glenn Alexander, Jim Dunlop, Mika Barnes, like all these people kind of like helping guide me, and then me kind of discovering myself, really feels like now with Cowboy Stay and going into this whole new project, that technically was launched off of Get-Go back in September. This whole new project just feels like it does feel like a new chapter. It's this like next step. It's an evolution to who I am, and I'm sure it's going to keep evolving, right? I hope it's going to keep evolving. Yeah, right? But for right now, it's really exciting, and like I feel really motivated by the stories that I'm telling in these songs, the way that I'm telling these stories, the way that they sound and stuff. Like, I'm just really motivated and intrigued by where that's going to pull me.
I want to ask one thing, if we can go back slightly. How much of because you play a few instruments and whatnot, how much of it did you teach yourself before you're
yeah, that's a good question. I didn't teach myself guitar. Like, I had multiple guitar teachers, and bass guitar was interesting because the high school that I wanted to go to had an arts program that I couldn't go because family lived too far away to go, so I needed to get into the arts program so that the buses came out, so that they'd make a little bit of an exception. So I needed to learn how to play the bass guitar for that. So the summer of grade 8, I learned how to play bass, kind of just on my own. And then my brother had a piano because my parents wanted to get him into music too, and he's never really into it. So I kind of took that over and started messing around with the keys and taught myself. Really wish I didn't, because I play super incorrectly, and it gives me this weird carpal tunnel thing. So that's super
playing?
I don't know. I'm more conscious of it now, because I know if I play for a prolonged period of time,
you're
it really hurts. But for years, man, because I was just trying to figure out where the notes were, I was just trying to figure out what was going on. And I had no idea how to do that properly. So I taught myself that, but actually that was the biggest, learning piano, just where the notes were and how that kind of worked, along with learning theory, through already knowing how to play guitar and stuff. gave me a huge foundation to be able to program anything I wanted to, like synthesis and stuff like that. And like I'll just apply it to a bunch of different instruments. So, my grandfather on my mom's side, he used to play fiddle a lot. And he was like super, super good at fiddle. And I wanted to pick it up too, because I was like, that'd be really cool and fun. But it just sounds so bad. It just sounds so like when you try and like do the thing, it's not good, man. I was like,
yeah, I feel like there's no being okay at fiddle. It's either you sound like terrible or like you're really good.
For sure.
I picked it up a couple times and I was like, nope, not for me.
Yeah, it's tough. It's a tough one. So that's one of them that I never did. I always wanted to know, like, play like trumpet and saxophone and stuff. Never did that either. So these are like maybe like later in life, little bits of exploration. There's still instruments out there that I'd like to be able to play. So one thing that eludes me is the pedal steel. On some of my tracks, like on Cowboy, you'll hear a lot of pedal steel. And you actually hear a lot of fiddle too. But with the pedal steel, it's got all these like levers and things you do with your knees, and like it's a whole contraption.
That's a lot of coordination. It's
so much coordination, man.
It's a sport.
And that's always eluded me so much, because like you can program pedal steel. Like there's pedal steel samplers or whatever. So like I've tried to do it, and I'll do it for demos sometimes, but even that takes like hours to get it to sound like what a pedal steel sounds like. Like it's such a complex, but when they get it right, it's the most beautiful thing. So that and fiddle and the way like those sounds like weave in and out of one another, that's so beautiful. Because it has like such a vocally expressive character to it, yet it's not a vocal. Those are some instruments that I love. But yeah, in terms of the ones that I play, like I'm not like super, super expert at anything. Like I'm pretty good at most of them. But like I'm not, I'm not a session player like that, If there's parts that I know that I can do or I feel comfortable doing, then I'll do them. But if there's like really intricate stuff or just a certain sound that I know I'm not gonna nail very much, like I'll have somebody else play that.
You clearly wear a lot of hats in the musical process. Obviously, artist, producer, instrumentalist. I mean, that's still part of an artist. But how do you balance that? Are you like? I don't even know what I'm trying to say. But do you have like a different process as an artist when you're writing a song, or like producing? Is it easy to switch those hats on and off, or do you kind of feel like they all kind of work together?
Yeah, they do work together. I mean, being an artist, it's a really good question, because I think being an artist, you get to be a lot more selfish and self-indulgent. So if I'm going to write and I know that I'm writing for me, I feel like I can take a couple more selfish kind of liberties and be like, no, I don't like that. I wouldn't say that. You know what I mean? Or whatever. And so yeah, in terms of like them all kind of working together, they're the same muscles, right? It's the same, like if I'm singing a background vocal on somebody else's thing versus if I'm doing it on my own thing. I might change the tone slightly or something, but it's a background vocal, right? Like it's still just composition arrangement. Mm-hmm. The hat shifting thing is really just when I put my artist hat on, I have to be aware that like this is me, this is my personality that needs to be coming through. This has to be 100% reflective of me. When I'm doing that with other artists, it's the same thing, only now I'm there to support them. So it's just like whatever is the most you thing that we can do, that's what we're going to do. I'm just going to support that. And so I tend to be indulgent in different ways there. Like I tend to really kind of be able to explore with different artists, like dig into different corners. We were talking about Brian before the podcast started because you guys have just talked to him. And Brian John Harwood's stuff is interesting because he always just wants to have things that sound super fun, super exciting, while just sharing his story. That's his like whole thing. He also really likes like really beachy stuff, likes the kind of tropical influences, whatever, like likes that sort of thing. So for me, like knowing, okay, like this guy just wants to have a good time, right? And he wants to tell his story. So musically, when it comes to laying like the foundation for those tracks, I go all out every single time. I put as many weird little sounds in there and whatever as I want, but I tend to be super indulgent in that way, and just like, let's have fun. Let's just put fun stuff in there. Let's just fill this thing up with all the fun stuff that we want.
It's funny you say that. In his song Saving Up for a Friday that you produced,
Yeah.
I love listening to all the little chirps and stuff in the background, like all like
Yeah.
da 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 da. Yep. I just like every time,
Yeah.
like there's a whole bunch of different things in there. Every time I listen to it, it's like it like just even like the production of it, it's really fun. So it's like interesting that you say that it's like consciously. I mean, obviously it's conscious because you're the producer.
It's a conscious thing. Yeah, we're saving up for Friday. Like, there's all those ad libs that Brian and Jason did, and just all these like big harmony stacks and things, these big chants. Like, there were so many vocal tracks. We probably had like 45, 50 vocal tracks, like with all of these like little different little sound things. Like the pre-chorus, if you listen to that song, it's just, I think the first pre-chorus is just drums. Like, I drop everything out and it's just like 808s, like just the boop 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 type of thing or whatever, which is super fun because as the song builds, I just add more and more like weird thing, and I just took a bunch of different like gunshot samples, and like that's
Really?
the fill. Yeah, and like I manipulated them and whatever, but they just have such a like big impact. It's just such a, to me, like it's such a muscly kind of song,
Yeah.
that it's
Yeah.
just like, I was just like, a gunshot's gonna fit right in. I don't think anybody's gonna notice. It's just things like that, right? Like whatever's gonna like sonically speak to it, a lot of the time you don't necessarily even hear it. You just kind of feel it, and it just creates this feeling that we're trying to capture as like a whole.
I guess that's why like that many layers and stuff. That's why it kind of sounds new every time that I hear it. Like it's like there's always something different to pick up on it. Interesting.
Yeah.
Let's take a quick little break and we'll be right back with Dustin Bird.
Hey, it's Dustin Bird, and I'm here on the porch with Front Porch Music.
We are back on the porch with Dustin Bird, and apparently he has a new song out called Cowboy Stay. So tell us all about that song. Let's just
She's pretending like she hasn't listened to it 100 times yet.
have not listened to it 100 times. Okay.
We're together this weekend, and all weekend both of us have just been randomly going Cowboys Day.
Yes, man. Oh, that's great.
We were trying to find cowboy hats. We were gonna wear cowboy hats. We were gonna remake your album cover. We had all these fun plans, and then
I'd love that. Yeah. Actually, that album cover is super fun. My brother and I, we, one night he was just like, hey, wouldn't it be funny if like you sat on the edge of your hat?
so is that literally why? That's it.
I was like, yeah. That was the whole
It
idea.
would be funny.
There's no like metaphor. It's just like that's funny.
Yeah, no, we just thought it was funny, and then we started being like, well, yeah, it's kind of like got this like used from the 6 vibe, but it's like this cowboy thing, and then it's also like, well, yeah, okay, like there's like this like dichotomy in terms of like the change of perspective lyrically, which I'll get into a little bit, but we're kind of looking at that, and then we're like, okay, no, this might actually make sense. Like, this might actually be really cool, and like whatever. But that's how the idea started. Was just like, and maybe he was like already thinking this. I don't know. I mean, what I'm saying was more coming from my brain to like justify it. But he might have already been thinking this. Usually when we come up with ideas, he's like 10 steps ahead, and then I'm like, oh yeah, that sounds cool. Can you please explain it to me? But like,
I was just gonna ask, are you guys usually on the same wavelength? But it appears not.
No, yeah. Anytime like something visually happens, unless like when we're in the room creating stuff, then usually there's a lot of like we're on the same wavelength there. But beforehand, when we're coming up with the ideas, or afterwards when he is doing the edits and stuff, he's got like a whole thing going on, and I'm just like, I believe in you, whatever. Because like I genuinely, man, I'm like, I like visual stuff. I like fashion. I like the way stuff turns out, and I am always curious in terms of how the process works. Like, but I don't have that same mind visually. That mind for me happens musically with like ideas, song wise, And Cowboy Stay was one of those ideas, and it was like this fun little thing. I sat down on the piano one night, and I was like, you can make a cowboy stay, hang up his head, and I kind of was doing it like a more of a ballad kind of way. And I was trying to find like these lyrics for the verse, because one, this is a type of song that I've never like written before. Like this, it's about a cowboy. Previous to this, prior to this, I don't think I'd ever worn a cowboy hat. I never really thought of myself as like this, like cowboy type of guy, because I'm not. I'm scared of horses, kind of. So like I never really. So I'm writing this song, and I'm like, this is super fun, but like, how do I do this? Like, is this even for me? Like, I'm not sure, but I want to write it. I want to chase the idea. So I wrote that chorus, really loved it, couldn't figure out those verses. So I brought my co-writer, Brent Baxter, on, and I was like, hey man, like, what do you think? Do you think that we could do this differently or what? And he's like, actually, I love the idea, but what if we do this with the verses? And he started writing, and he had, sun's coming up, kissing gold in that high rise with like a Montana morning with wide open blue skies. And I was like, oh dude, like, yeah. And that it's kind of like that thing where like, it's just a complete, like my perspective completely changed in the song at that point. Cause I was like, oh, that's how we're going to look at it. Because what it became was this really like profound love story about, how you can like be willing to change the core of your identity for somebody. Like when you're in like any type of relationship that as powerful as what the song describes, you're willing to, move somewhere, right? Or you're willing to just, change everything that you thought that you knew about yourself, because now all that really matters is that relationship. And that cowboy visual became the perfect catalyst to tell that story. It became like the perfect thing, because when I picture a cowboy, I picture this like wild, free, kind of like roaming across the plains type of guy. He's sort of a lone rider. This idea that somebody can come in and change all that was just so compelling to me. And I was like, you know what? Like, at the end of the day, I'm making country music. I think I could put a cowboy hat on. And then that cowboy hat started to kind of take on a life of its own as well, because it stopped being for me about like, am I trying to be a cowboy or something? It started to become, what's this really representing? This is representing like a willingness to change for love. So it's been like a really rewarding process, because I've had the autonomy in terms of production and everything to be able to do that, to be able to explore that, say, hey, what's this going to look like? What's this going to sound like? To be able to just make these decisions with freedom, because the label Open Road is dope that way. They're great. Like they said, yeah, like just follow your heart, boy.
Well, that's always nice for sure.
The world is my oyster, musically. Like how am I gonna say this musically? There's something about being boxed in. There's so much stuff about being boxed in that I hate musically. Like, we got to make this type of sound. We have to say this type of thing, like whatever. So much of that I hate. But there is a plus, and that is it makes it a lot easier to make decisions.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, when you have all of these, like you can do whatever you want. How do you pick what you're gonna do what you want?
Yeah, so it just takes space and time. Like I love it here. I don't know if you can hear like the birds chirping and all that sort of stuff.
Well, yeah, like on our break, Jenna said, oh, "It looks so nice right there."
Yeah, it really is. It's space, and like I can kind of float in and out and try different things and let stuff sit and just explore things. Like, you don't want to ride the same roller coaster over and over again. Like, you want to get on a new one.
Right.
Like, you know the feelings that you're anticipating, but you still want to ride the new one because it's exciting, right? And, like, that's what I'm constantly trying to do is, like, there's all these stories, love stories and heartbreak stories and whatever. All these stories have been told before. But how do we tell them in a way that feels fresh? That feels like it's a reflection.
And that fits to you, too.
Exactly. That is a reflection of who I am. So all these things, you got to consider all these things. But when I get it right, it's awesome.
How good does that feel?
Like butter.
Yeah.
It feels great.
I have a question. When a song is just kind of coming to you, do you hear the melody first, or do you hear like kind of see the lyrics first, or is it kind of like all together, or is it different depending on the song?
Yeah, it's a little different. Usually it's like a melody thing. Usually I hear some sort of like vibe, some melodic and compositional vibe sort of. I don't hear the whole like production mapped out, but if I had a melody like like a boom ba 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 ba. Like
Take it
I
away,
might
Jenna.
hear like what I'll do like with a guitar or something like there like I can hear like I might do like a little like palm muted thing and then like maybe like a little hand drum sort of thing or whatever, and it's kind of got like a cool. So I'll hear some of the elements, but like then what is what's that really saying like lyrically? And I'll go through like my notes because some like just throughout the day I'll put in different ideas like lyrically that I might have or something. Sometimes those are sparked with other melodies, but I just have them in there anyways. I'll go through and I'll see, but more often than not, I store those in my voice notes, and I'll just I'll title that probably like Eastern Vibes Melody or something like that, and then just like let that sit there, and then when I go into a co-write, I can like go through and say, oh okay. I rarely like revisit them on my own, so there's just like a whole graveyard of melodies that are sitting there.
The whole songwriting process is so fascinating to me. Just like
because it's there's so many moving parts to it, right? Like it's just there's so many different things that you can do, and I just find like the ideas in some way or another come together, whether that's a lyric first or a melody first, or if I'm just sitting there with the guitar and I just like the way something sounds and I lean into that, right? Or if I'm sitting there at the piano and I just again there's never like one way to do it. You just kind of it's just always on in my brain. Like I'm going to write songs. I'm going to tell stories. So if inspiration comes, inspiration comes. There's no like real method other than when you have like a schedule, right? And it's like, okay, what kind of titles we got?
Yeah.
How do we want to do this? What are we trying to write? Like those types of things. But for myself, when I sit down and write a song, there's no one way.
I want to talk about a little bit about like the Unscripted album, and like that was like a formative phase in your life too, and how like what you're doing now has changed and how you've grown from that. So like think about Unscripted and that time of your life and the things you were telling and the way you were telling those stories versus now.
Well, it's Unscripted was like a really unscripted album because I like really didn't have any idea that those songs were going to be on an album, let alone even come out for the most part. I thought like I was just writing songs, and at the beginning, like with Wake Up and Love Problem, those were songs that I kind of just made them a lot more agreeable than I would ever do today. I made them a lot more musically agreeable, lyrically agreeable. That's just born out of insecurity and not knowing who I am as a person and trying to find that. So I knew I wanted to put music out. I knew I could write songs and that sort of thing, and I knew that country music was where I'd wanted to plant my feet. But as a producer and the guy writing the songs and all the rest of it, there's still like a lot of insecurity there and a lot of desire to be accepted by the community, right? So I thought that they sounded really good. I thought they weren't too crazy. They were just kind of doing what I thought they had to do for a variety of reasons. For radio, that whole decision, right? When you're an artist and making songs like, oh, we want to make sure radio likes this or whatever. For what everybody around me was kind of saying at the time in terms of what people were going to accept and stuff. I had all those things running through my mind. And even then, like, I wanted to make stuff a little bit different. I at least wanted to be the best. I was struggling with finding who I was and what I really wanted to say. So while I still like those songs and I'll still perform them, I feel like as a person I've just grown way past them. But that whole Unscripted album is like a journey of that. It's a journey of me like growing as a person. I mean, like the song Unscripted, that was pitched to me. Jeff Delzio produced it. I just showed up and sang it. So that's a cool song, and it's kind of said a little bit more than what the songs preceding it had said, I think. And then People came out, and so People was me digging in a little bit more to trying to say something. And Rolling Stone in Every Little Town, those Live Off the Floor songs.
I fucking love Rolling Stone.
Thanks. I think it's cool, but I never thought it was going to come out. That was
cool.
Out of all the songs, that was the song that I never thought was going to come out, because I was like for sure nobody's gonna like do anything with this. Like, it's fun for me, but this is super weird. Like, why would anybody? It's not like, it's not even. I don't even think still it's like really a country song. I think it's just like a cool vibe.
Yeah.
But like, yeah, it's like just kind of a cool thing. It was the live off the floor thing and the magic of the band there. Like Sean Moore, Holt Hitchcock, Stu Weinberg, Aiden Jacobs, and Lindsey Clark. They played on that song. They made that song. They, like, on the day, I was like, hey guys, like, here's this demo that I'd made with like 3 loops off of Splice. Like, I did it at like 1 a.m. one night. It was like a fun thing, but I literally just had like a little beat and like a little guitar loop thing. And I think Stu just replicated the guitar loop because that was cool. The progression was like a little different, but it was like basically the same thing. And Sean did this thing on the toms. It was like boom, boom, pop, boom, you know, whatever. And I was like, oh, dude, that's okay. This is coming to life real quick. So, like, I think we used, like, take 2 of that. Like, it was, like, really quick, and we, like, recorded it at Catherine North Studios in Hamilton. And I might have replaced, like, a couple... Like, I might have replaced, like, the synth part or something like that, the keys or whatever. Like, I didn't change the performance. I might have just swapped the sounds. Other than that, though, it's, like, just that. Like, that's really all it is. Which is super sick and really feels good, right? Because it feels like anytime like I perform a song, I want it to feel in some way like I'm telling that story for the first time, right? That song was performed like that because it was basically being performed for the first time. So it's captured that kind of magic in the studio, and there's something really cool about that. And that was the song that, as far as I understand, was what it attracted the label. And at the time, I didn't even necessarily see it like that. I thought it was kind of like a bit of a different one-off that was fun. But looking back, yeah, that was like the kickstart to my artistic evolution. And plus, Every Little Town, I think, was like one of the best songs that I had written to that point. And again, I didn't even know. Like, I had that song sitting for like 6 months. My manager at the time, Jeremy, he was like, oh, like, no, I really like this. And I was like, so yes, we recorded it. And I'm super glad we did, because now it's become one of my favorites. I took that concept sort of and played with it, just kind of ran with it. It's just like when I write stuff, I'm just gonna write stuff that feels like me. When I produce stuff, I'm just gonna produce stuff that feels dope, that feels cool, that feels exciting. And Open Road freed me up to do that, because they were like, yeah, like, we want you to be different. We want you to just be you. And that gave me all the confidence in the world to say, okay, well, now I got this label saying that I can do that, so I'm gonna do that, right? I don't now have to worry
Sweet.
about, like, is radio gonna like this, or DSP's gonna like this, or people are gonna like this? Like, I've got to put this out on my own, and I've got to. It's like, no, like, I've got the team who believes in it. So just that belief on its own is so powerful in terms of giving me, like, the confidence, right, to do it and to put it out. But then they're also fighting for it. So it gives me security in that, a lot of confidence in that, and it makes me super, super grateful to have it, because I know that, without it, we'd be having a different conversation. And so with this whole new chapter, it's like completely different from Unscripted. We know that there's a narrative. We know that we're trying to create a story. We're trying to tell stories. We're trying to do it in a way that just feels so authentically me. And I'm like discovering myself as a person through it, and it's a different thing. It's a different thing. Unscripted will never exist again as it did, and I think that's okay.
Well, we're really excited to see what's next for you musically. Are you ready to see what's next for you on the podcast?
Oh, yeah. Let's do it.
I was literally going to be like, we don't have enough time. We can let him off the hook. Sorry, no game for you.
So we have prepared a game. Jenna's prepared a game. She's our game master here. And Jenna, do you want to describe it?
So we're going to play Cowboy Stay or Cowboy Go.
So we have 5 scenarios, and you have to decide whether
the Cowboy stays.
Cowboy stays or Cowboy goes.
Okay, easy. Well, maybe not. Okay, let's go.
Okay, first one. Should we make it easier the first time? Okay, yeah. No, this is my freaking game.
Yeah, I don't know. You make the choices.
Okay, you have free tickets.
I'm just here.
You have free tickets to a concert, but it's like your least favorite band ever. Does Cowboy stay or does Cowboy go?
Am I the cowboy in this situation?
Yes.
Yeah,
I'm
in
the
this
cowboy.
very specific
Okay.
story,
Okay. No, that's okay. Definitely Cowboy. Definitely Cowboy Go. If I don't care about it, I'm not going. Yeah.
Just like live music on a stage isn't enough to stay?
No.
Okay, you're getting on a plane,
Okay.
but you learn it's the pilot's first flight.
Cowboy stay or Cowboy go?
Cowboy Go is fast.
Cowboy Go. Well, you know what? It's pretty tough to be a pilot. You got to go through a lot of training, and I'm gonna go Cowboy stay. I'm gonna give them the benefit.
Yeah, I kind of agree because like
Good
it's like
luck.
they just finished the training. It's fresh in their head.
Yeah.
But they've never flown the plane with human beings. This many human beings. Okay,
Yeah.
I'm not going.
Dennis Cowboy go.
I wonder. There's definitely there. I wonder if there's ever been a time I've been on a plane and that's been the situation.
You literally have no idea.
Yeah, you have no idea.
I feel like I'd be like Cowboy go get a drink and then get on the plane.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Now that we know you're scared of horses,
Yeah.
you're putting out your new song, Cowboy Stay. You have to channel your inner Austin Butler being Elvis, and you have to ride the horse. Cowboy Stay or Cowboy Go?
Cowboy stay. I can do it. I'm not so scared of horses where I can't ride one. I'm just a little scared of getting like kicked in the head by one. That's the biggest.
Yeah.
That's the biggest thing. Yeah. Because like
That's rational.
I don't know all the rules and all the techniques. So I think I'd have to like get educated, and then I'd have the confidence to ride it. Yeah.
You're on a really bad date, but the food is really good. Cowboy Stay or Cowboy Go?
Oh, wow. Cowboy stay. You know, it might be bad, but the food's great, and I don't want to be rude. You know, Cowboy stay.
There was a moment of panic in your face there. Though.
You were picturing a really bad date, and you're like, the food was good, but I ran anyways. Oh my god. Your car breaks down on your way to a gig.
Yeah.
A very sketchy person pulls up and offers to drive you the rest of the way. Cowboy Stay or Cowboy Go?
Cowboy go, in the sense I'm not getting in that car. Yeah, I for sure. That's happened. That happened last summer on the Tim Hicks tour. My car.
Explain yourself.
My car broke down. Well, I mean, the real thing that happened was I went to the wrong venue, like on the other side of like.
Oh no.
Yeah, it was like 3 hours away from where I was supposed to be. So that was like the main issue. But
did you like? Was that panic? Did you panic?
Oh yeah, for sure. It was because like I'd showed up for sound check, which was like 6 p.m. The show was at 8, and I get to the venue, and but so like prior to me actually getting to the venue, the car did break down. Like I had taken a turn or something in this new car, and it just like all the computers just freaked out and it like stopped me. I had to like pull off and like call Subaru and like try and deal with it, and it was like a whole thing. So I was already feeling like I was like super late, and then I get to the venue for sound check. There was a lot of people there already, and I was like, oh man, like I'm like really late. I was like, crap, like I didn't realize. I go to step out of the car. And this woman, she goes, "Oh, like I didn't know all the grandkids were coming." And then I was like, "Oh no!" And then I realized, like, I was at a wedding, like, at the venue that was supposed to be for the next week.
Dustin Bird, the wedding crasher.
Fuck this up by 3 hours.
Yeah, well, because I read that, like, we were playing that venue the following Monday, but I read the wrong call sheet. I clicked the wrong call sheet in my email, so I put that address in. I didn't read the date. And then I called Tim's tour manager. His name's also Tim, and I was like, "Hey, like, so my car's a little messed up. Can't really go over 80. It doesn't seem, and probably gonna be a few hours late." And he's like, "Okay, well, you can probably just go home." I was like, "Oh, okay."
Oh no.
So it was a rough one. I was like, okay, that was a really dumb mistake. But I got a flat tire as well back in October. Going to another show, and I actually felt really excited about that one because I felt like a real like manly guy, you know, being able to like change the tire on the side of the road and stuff. I was actually pretty hyped about the whole thing. I called somebody in the band and I was like, "Hey man, like I'm gonna be a little late because I gotta change this tire." I was like really kind of pumped about it.
You need roadside. You need CAA.
Yeah.
Well, okay. Dustin, I guess we'll just leave it at that. Justin, where can people find you?
You can find me on Instagram TikTok. You can find me at home if you can find out where I live, but probably please don't. But yeah, find me all kinds of places. You can find me at Walmart sometimes if I got to pick something up.
We'll just be waiting in Belleville at the Walmart.
Yeah, or maybe like the Foodland, depending on. So yeah, there's a few different places
Gotcha.
that I might be. So if you want to find me, it's not that difficult. Yeah.
Oh,
Noted. Thanks so much for joining us, Dustin.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks so much for joining us on The Porch with Front Porch Music. I love talking to artists and digging deep into the world of Canadian country music, and I'm so excited you joined. If you liked this episode, please rate, review, and subscribe to this podcast. That's the easiest way for you to support this show. You may even get a shout out. So we'll see you in a couple weeks next time on The Porch. On The Porch with Front Porch Music is hosted by me, Logan Miller, and Jenna Weiser. The theme song was written, produced, and performed by Owen Wrigley.
No, we have one more question.
Oh, do we?
Because we were talking to Brian earlier, and
Brian John Harwood.
and I may have put him on the spot,
Oh, right.
which I already told you.
I'm so uncomfortable.
But I'm making you do it too.
No.
It's a this or that. You have to pick one.
Jenna.
Brian John Harwood or Ali Walker.
Is it just like what's the circumstance?
You don't get one.
So there's no circumstance.
You don't have to answer this.
There's no circumstance. I just gotta pick a person.
Jenna just likes to make people squirm. This is so
Well,
You don't have to answer, but I did it to him. Are you gonna pick?
no, because that's kind of dumb. But like,
Okay. Brian played the game.
Oh, I'm so happy you said that.